Hello, and welcome to Conversations with Linda. I'm Linda. You know I love to have a good conversation, so let's have one. Now, before we have our conversation, I want to give you a dose of good medicine. You know, laughter is just good medicine for the soul. Take a look at this video clip.
Okay, y'all, me and my mama out here doing some last minute Christmas shopping. And I called my mama and told her for Christmas that she did not have to bring her wallet, her money, none of that. So I made her leave her wallet at home because whatever she want, I'm getting it for her. And I've been waiting on this moment all my life. You excited, Mom? You proud of me?
I'm excited. Yeah, I sure am.
When you get in this store, don't ask for nothing. Don't look at nothing. Don't touch nothing. Don't do none of that because you ain't got no money for nothing here. You can't afford it. Don't touch it. Do you got some money? Put that back. You ain't got no money. Put it back. Christmas coming up. Show them what you got, Mom.
Don't you say nothing. You could have took me out here and these folks started embarrassing me. Can I at least go get me something to eat? Can you at least feed me?
You got some, can you at least feed me money? It's food at the house. That's how y'all mama thought we felt as kids. When we was hungry, we wanted a little cheeseburger.
Christmas was coming.
Just like it's coming around the same time.
That's what you said.
Christmas come around the same time as it's coming when we ask. It's the same day.
You the one told me to come out here and you was going to buy me some.
How else was I going to teach y'all a lesson?
Chit-chatters, now wasn't that funny? It was truly funny to me. All right, come on, let's go into our conversation. Charles Winton Jr. on the surface is an extremely charismatic motivational speaker. He's an author, therapist with a passion for people. Currently, he is pursuing his path to becoming a renowned therapist that is committed to working with not only couples, but individuals, adolescents, and those affected by trauma. Charles is EMDR Level 2 trained and believes he is called not only naturally, but spiritually to walk those he serves through their story so that they can become healthy mentally. Charles considers himself a life changer who loves to engage with individuals and take their hurt and pain and turn them into tools of victory. As a result, he has produced healthy, enduring relationships with those he counsels and has built respect and admiration from his colleagues who work alongside him in the field. All right, Conversations with Linda, welcome to our show, Charles Winton. Welcome, Charles.
Good to be here with you, Pastor.
Listen, I am so excited about you being a part of the show this evening because you and I have something in common, and that's mental health therapy.
Yes.
My chit-chatters know that I am a mental health therapist also. You know, I kind of wear a lot of hats, pastor and all that, preacher.
I understand.
But mental health therapy is really my profession, my true profession, going back 20 years.
Wow.
And but I want to talk about, I want you to be the therapist today.
Okay. All right.
So would you tell our chit-chatters, that's what we call them, would you tell them your credentials and how long you've been in the therapy field?
Well, Pastor, I've been in the therapy field for like 20 years. I started as in prison. People don't believe that, but I started working in prison as a drug and alcohol therapist and behavior special therapist. And then I believe that I wanted to try and not help on the back end.
Okay.
Because I was seeing that we were doing our work on the back end and I wanted to be on the front end to try to avoid that as much as possible.
Okay.
So I went to get my master's in marriage and family therapist to kind of help the broken systems where it all start.
Yeah.
So I figured that is where I needed my time now is spent. So now I spend my time working with families, working with individuals. I'm a licensed professional counselor with the state of Tennessee and also a certified trauma therapist. So that's what I do.
Oh my goodness. First of all, that's a vast resume.
Yeah, you talk about a lot of hats.
A lot of hats. I'm gonna call you a guru. I called the girl that was on my last show. Her name is Elaine Michelle, but she was the financial guru. You're gonna be the mental health guru.
Oh my God, yes.
So speaking of trauma, because you said that's really your focus, one of the things that you emphasize, COVID is a global traumatic experience that we're going through right now. I mean, as a world.
Right.
As a therapist, how are you helping people to balance that? And what's the difficulty for people balancing the trauma of therapy or the trauma of COVID from a therapeutic perspective?
Well, I don't think, first of all, is what I'm trying to do is educate. So I appreciate you for having me and any platform I can get on to kind of spread this word that I don't think that people really understand the extent of this whole COVID pandemic, isolation, and how traumatic it can be. Because past what I found out is when we talk about trauma, we always relate it to abuse, some physical abuse, death, but we don't think pandemic. We don't think loss of a dream. We don't think in terms of this. So first of all, I try to educate that we could be experiencing the effects of trauma and not know it because we don't think that this time, as you said, this world pandemic is considered a trauma. So a lot of people are experiencing depressive moods and isolation and not really having a name on it. But if you understood that this is trauma, then it'll help you explain what you're feeling.
And we're experiencing it as a society.
Right.
So that's something different. We're used to when we think of trauma as something that we're experiencing in our own little world, in our own little community or our own house.
Right.
But this is global trauma.
Yes.
And it leads me to my next question that I want to talk. I got so many things I want to talk to you about, but this leads me to my next question to ask you, because recently I read some research that called Generation Z the anxious generation. And this is the research that I read says that 70% of them across gender, races, and family incomes are dealing with anxiety.
Wow.
So do you think that's just because of COVID, or is this something else underneath the surface that's going on with Gen Z?
Absolutely. One of the things that I say that I like to unfold, and when you look at anxiety, you have to look at it like a peeling banana back.
Okay.
And you peel back these layers, and in the middle, I found that there's some fear there.
Okay.
Fear. So when you think in terms of fear in this whole generation, and so when we move past just treating anxiety, I like to say, what are you fearing?
Okay.
Because, and I think that changes the conversation when you deal with and having these conversations with our Generation Z.
Okay.
Then you speak more to their fear, and they don't know how to explain anxiety, but I do know I'm fearing. And what are those fears?
Okay.
And once you peel those fears back, they have some true fear.
Okay.
True fear.
And you said they sometimes don't know. Talk to our chit-chatters about that. What does anxiety feel like? What would someone be feeling in their body, maybe, in their thinking? Kind of just touch on those.
So
areas.
as you say, what is anxiety? I like to explain it like this, that I don't want to go too deep, but the limbic brain in our back part of our brain,
Right.
it houses our feelings, our emotions, and our trauma.
So
So in that limbic brain back in there is a file cabinet.
right.
And we put in a file everything that has happened to us. See? And because we have so many demands on our life, we have to go to school, we have family, we have other things that we have to do, we file it back there.
Okay.
And so what anxiety comes from is whenever there's a trigger,
Okay.
something triggers one of those file cabinets back there, the loss of my mom, the rape, the molestation, the divorce. And so because we don't understand how the limbic brain works,
Okay.
then automatically go into fight and flight mode.
Uh-huh.
So then we either want to fight or we want to run.
Yeah.
So anxiety is like I'm sitting in church, I'm sitting at my desk, I'm sitting in a calm place, but something just triggers something back here.
Okay.
So it's like I want to run, but I can't run.
Okay.
I'm in church.
Okay. So I want y'all to think about that. So he said, I love that metaphor. You said it's like a file cabinet, and you got all of these files, because we don't forget anything.
Right. No.
I know we say forgive and forget, but we really don't forget, right? The brain doesn't forget. So we file it away.
Exactly.
And something is said or done
Yes.
that opens a file cabinet. Y'all getting that? That's really good. I love this. That opens a file.
Absolutely.
That file cabinet and goes into one of your files.
Exactly.
And so that's called a trigger.
That's a trigger.
Because, we're throwing all of these words around.
Exactly.
Everybody's a psychiatrist. Right. Everybody's a therapist these days. We're throwing these words around, but people don't really know what these words are.
Absolutely.
So I love that illustration of a file cabinet. A word. Sometimes it could just be something you see
well,
that triggers.
That's exactly what it is. So I like how you want to break it down, because that's how I like that. Your triggers are through your 5 senses. It has to be something you seen, you heard, you felt, you seen, or you touched. And that's the only way to activate those memories in your brain. So like you were about to say, it could be a song. Ooh. You and your husband could be driving down the street. You're on your way for dinner. And then that old Luther Vandross song come on. And you like, well, drive me home. Well, what's going on? They don't understand that that music has some identification with a file. Could have been an ex breakup when your husband left you years ago. That was the song he was listening to. Right. And immediately you fight or flight. So that brings sweating, that brings rapid heartbeat, that brings anxious.
Okay, so right there, because I got to slow you down.
Yeah, that's fine.
Rapid heartbeat. Sweating.
Yes.
What else? Come on, give us some of these physical symptoms.
Some physical symptoms, your rapid heartbeat, you're sweating, wringing your hands, shaking your leg.
Shaking your leg, that's a big one. People don't even think about it.
I like people, I just do this all the time.
That's some
anxiety. I have to push.
There.
There's something that has triggered that got you doing this all the time.
Yes. Y'all hear that?
So
think about that. For those of you who shake, I have caught people just shaking there, and I'm like, okay, why are you shaking your leg like that? Okay, go ahead.
Even in therapy session, it's not about everything what people say, but it's all about watching body language as well. We can be in a session, I can be in a session, and I'm talking about family. Tell me your history, and they're quiet. But then when they start talking about mom, then they start shaking. Tell me what they shake. Oh, I just shake out like this all the time. No, that means something in your limbic brain was foul, and that file cabinet was open. And now you feel fight or flight, but you can't run. So then all the energy, instead of going out, it goes in. And so it has to react.
The body is going to tell what's really going on.
Exactly.
I'd say that to people all the time who say, I don't know why I'm having these physical symptoms. The body is going to tell the truth, whether you want to admit it or not. The body is going to tell it.
There's a book that I always refer, and that is The Body Keeps the Score.
I love that book.
You love that book?
Love that book.
So no matter how long it's been, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, it's just like the scars that you had when you was a kid, where when you're 30 years old, you can always see that little scratch. Your body's going to tell you, remember that? And you can go back, when I was 5, I fell. Well, the brain works the same way. If you don't heal it right, it won't heal. So therefore, when it's triggered, then it's going to bring back those scars and those memory of the scars, and your body's going to react.
Absolutely. And not only are your body's reacting to it, but you actually start experiencing it if you're not careful.
Absolutely.
As if it's happening in that moment.
Well, that is the significant part. You hit it on the nail. That's why I know you know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Because also in the limbic brain, what I did not mention, there is no sense of time.
Absolutely.
And that's important. Where our memory lives, where our feelings live, where our emotion live back here, there is no sense of time. So when you're triggered by those 5 senses, it brings up that file. And the reason why your body's reacting, because your body is telling you, run, it's here now. They're finna do it again now. And so that's why we have the logic to tell us, no, Linda,
Absolutely.
Linda, wait. That was 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's not happening now.
Mm-hmm.
You're in a safe place.
Right.
And so you have to activate that frontal lobe, which is our logic.
Oh,
to
put your
calm that
hand on
down.
your frontal lobe.
Put your hand on your frontal lobe.
This is a powerful mechanism
Powerful.
right there.
Powerful.
You know, I was helping a person through grief,
Mhm.
and we were at the wake,
Okay.
and the person was literally having an anxiety attack.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I had to do in that moment is ask the question, because grief is natural.
Yes.
And it was all right to be crying,
Mhm.
but this person went into a full-blown anxiety attack.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
And I had to say, okay, where are you?
Mhm.
Because if you're having an anxiety attack and there is nothing in this moment that is warranting this level of
Yes.
anxiety,
Yes.
right? No, you're going to
Mhm.
feel some sadness,
Right.
but this anxiety that has
Mhm.
shown up, you're either in the past or the future.
There you go.
You're not in the present.
Absolutely.
And so now I'm not getting ready to go into this because you're the therapist for the day. So I did some tapping.
Okay.
You know the tapping?
Right.
Have you ever tried
Yeah.
that? Okay, so
Look at
anyway,
you.
listen, I know a little something,
I see.
and it brought her
Right.
right back down
Absolutely.
to center to realize I'm grieving
Mhm.
and I'm sad, but nothing is threatening my existence in
Right.
this moment
Absolutely.
that would for this anxiety attack that I'm having.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I like teaching. There's another book, Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, and it talks
I
about
hadn't read
what
that one.
read it.
Okay.
It is wonderful. And to make a long story short, you know how we watch the Wild Animal Kingdom stories, and you see the lion over here, and you see the herd of zebras, and you're like, I'm about to see what's about to happen, right? Because you see this lion, you see this whole herd of zebras, and all of a sudden the lion takes off.
Okay.
And then you see the whole zebras running, right?
Uh-huh.
And so the book talks about what happens to the last zebra. Now, this is not too good, but I'm going somewhere.
Okay.
Then the lion eats the last
Okay.
zebra. But if you pay attention, the camera goes back to the other herd of zebras. They're eating grass and drinking water.
Okay.
So the book talks about, what is it about it? Why zebras don't get ulcers? But what's the difference between a zebra and a human?
Okay.
Why is it a human only have to imagine the lion is chasing us and it brings up those feelings of fight and flight? But the zebra realized, I am out of danger. I can go back to peace. I can go back to eating. I can go back to drinking. Notice what the zebra's not doing. Come on, Linda. Let's go and save him. They eating the lion. No, they're eating and drinking. But a human, we go back to our past and we relive it. We relive it. We relive it. And every time we relive it, it brings back as if the lion is chasing us. And so the author says, we as humans have a wonderful brain, but our brain, we need to tell it, it's not, the lion is not there.
Wow.
So whenever you feel anxiety and you feel those emotions running, he wants us to remind us, look around.
The lion
The studio
is
not here.
Wow.
So that which I'm thinking I'm running is all in my head.
Yes, all in
It's
my
all in
head.
my head.
And you can just kind of calm down.
Calm down.
Graze in the grass.
Yeah, and drink your water.
And drink your water.
Sit back
I love it. I
and
love
drink
it.
your water. You know what? And that's important, Linda, because what happens is, break that story down, like in relationships. You might have a man that's with his girl and he's like, I'm not him. I know he abused you. I know, but I'm here to love you. But she can't love because her mind always go back to the last one. And so what the book is saying, calm down. He loves you. You're in a safe place now. He wants to be the man that you've been. Then you got to go in the restroom, tell yourself that, and go back out there and say, okay, how you doing?
And you know, speaking of that, I think that one of the reasons people struggle with so much mental health issues, is because we expect for these things to happen automatically.
Right.
we have to do the work.
Yes.
We've got to remind ourselves.
Yes.
We've got to go and get in that mirror and say, okay, this
Right.
is not the last boyfriend I had.
Absolutely.
Right. So that's a little work.
That's work.
And so you just think, well, I must be crazy
Mhm.
because I can't stop all of this. All of this is not stopping automatically.
Absolutely.
Now you got to do the work.
You got to do the work. And that is what I was mentioning before we started, is one of my mission is to come after church, because
Okay.
I grew up in the church and I'm a
Mhm.
church boy, right?
Mhm.
But one of the things we did was we went to the altar, and not saying that prayer can't do it, but what I found is that we don't want to leave the altar and do the work.
And do
And
the
so
work.
we got half of it, right?
Leave the altar. I love it.
But you got to do your work part.
Got to do the
And
work.
we don't want to work, and because therapy and mental health is work, we have to tell our brain, hey,
Yes.
it's not in danger. Hey, you're safe now. That's the work part.
You know, Charles, 20 some years ago, my undergrad degree is in business.
Okay.
But I was a pastor's wife, and I had just started preaching, and the Lord impressed upon me. I can remember it, speaking of the limbic system as if
Okay.
it was yesterday, that our people, especially in the African American
Mhm.
people, in the African American community, we were going to the altar and we were getting prayed for and we were crying our heart out. And I do believe God was hearing us.
Mhm.
But the modality, the path for our healing,
Right.
we were just resistant to.
Mhm.
Okay, because I believe when you ask God for healing, He will heal you, but God has many ways to heal.
Absolutely.
And so He may give you a surgeon,
Absolutely.
He may give you a therapist, right?
Right.
And so I thought, well, God gave me that understanding that we needed to dispel the stigma
Mhm.
of therapy, of mental health issues.
Right.
Because, all we were concerned about is somebody thinking we were crazy,
Absolutely.
right? But no, we were normal people who had traumatic experiences.
Absolutely.
And needed the pathway to
Mhm.
healing, which is mental health therapy.
Absolutely.
Right?
And you said releasing that stigma.
Yes.
That is the message that I have for churches, is we have to, in some kind of way, educate the African community
Uh-huh.
and say, because the African community church sets the tone for the African community.
Uh-huh.
What we believe, what we say is what the community
Yeah.
believes, and we are that powerful,
Right.
right? And we have to say that it's okay
It's
for
okay.
therapy.
And that's why I went back to school.
Right.
That's why I went back to school. All right, we're going to take a commercial break, you all. But this is such an interesting conversation and informative. I have with me Charles Winton, a therapist in our Memphis community. And we'll be right back to have more of this conversation. Welcome back to Conversations with Linda. Listen, I am having a great conversation with Charles Winton. He is a mental health therapist in the Memphis community, and just giving us some really valuable information. Listen, you're getting therapy for free today, all right? Charles, I know that you specialize in trauma,
Mhm.
but I want to take some time to
Okay.
really dive into that. What are some of the most common traumas that you see? I know we got COVID
Mhm.
going on, but what
Mhm.
else do you see regularly?
Regularly, death,
Yeah,
loss of a pet. Some people don't understand that loss of
Yeah.
a pet can be traumatic.
absolutely.
All
It's
right.
huge.
And one of the huge one, pastors, what I'm saying is loss of a dream.
Mhm.
And we discount that. This is why trauma is not objective. Once you understand trauma causes hurt and pain.
Yeah,
So what we try to educate is that what may cause you hurt and pain may not cause me
Mhm.
hurt and pain.
yeah.
But
So you, I
Mhm.
just want them to. I want
Okay.
us to slow that down because I want them to hear that what causes you hurt and pain may be different than what causes someone else hurt and pain.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes we minimize
Exactly.
what other people are going through.
And that can further traumatize the person,
Yes.
because I feel like no one hears me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And this
so
is not as bad as what
this is not-
somebody
my hurt.
Yes.
So you're not discounting the trauma, you're discounting my pain. And if I lost my cat and I'm crying, well, that hurts me.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people try to compare. So one of the things I do with trauma is we take out comparison.
That's good. Take out comparison.
Take out comparison.
All right. So you said it could be from the loss of a pet, loss of a loved one,
right?
But the loss of a dream.
Of a dream. This is not how I expected my life to turn out. And Pastor, is like that thought, and you can even bring the pandemic. This was not how I expected. Some people have to change the way they were going to get married. Some people change the way their whole life.
2020 just flipped us on our ears.
And so this is not how I expected my life. I always say, yes, divorce hurts, but you can get another husband, you can get another wife. But Pastor, what I'm finding is, although I got another mate, I'm still trying to figure out what happened to the last one, because I was not intended to be married
People
twice.
Don't get married to get divorced.
They don't get married.
I say that all the time.
Right.
Listen, can I tell you? And I think some of our chit chatters know this. That was my first experience with depression.
Okay.
My husband and I got married in 1986. And 4 days after we got married, he lost his job. So we went from having 10 bridesmaids, 10 groomsmen, limousines, and all kinds of stuff. You know, this was back in the day before they were doing the big events. We had the big event. You know, everybody's got a big event now. But I mean, you know, we had the wedding, right? And 4 days later, he lost his job. I was in college, so I wasn't even planning to work because he knew I still needed to graduate, but he had graduated. And from there, we lost our apartment. We had to live with my sister. We lost everything. He was working at a gas station, making $4.35 an hour.
Wow.
That was my first introduction to depression because I was ashamed that things had turned out the way they did.
Right.
I was traumatized, like, what in the world just happened?
Absolutely.
We had everything planned out, right? So how in the world? And I remember not knowing what it was I was feeling. I was not able to put it into words. Right. And when I tried to talk about it, you know, okay, this is 35 years ago. So when I tried to talk about it with my mom, she was like, okay, what's the deal? You know, and you know, you know, like Black people don't get depressed.
Exactly right.
Right. So it was a doctor that told me, because I started having physical symptoms. Okay. And it was a doctor that said, you're depressed. And I went away now depressed because I was depressed.
Right.
And I didn't know what to do with all of that. So thank God we are in a different place 35 years later. And now people can talk about it and identify it. Right. And that's what you do. You help them identify.
And I think you did the key. You hit on the key is, first of all, identifying, and then we can fix it.
Yeah.
So it's like this. I always make an example so people can really understand. If you break your arm, you go to the doctor. And then the doctor will set it, but then he said, come back in 4 to 6 weeks because the body's going to naturally heal itself. Okay. But this is the key. If you don't set it right, it's not going to heal right.
Right. And your arm is going to be out disfigured.
And it's going to be dismangled. Now, if you don't take your child to then how is this arm going to properly heal? Well, the brain is a muscle as well. So go back 35 years ago when that breakage happened. And I didn't get the help I need. And now 20 years later, how did I get here? I know how you got here. It wasn't set right.
And when it's not set right, it then alters how you think, how you look at the world. Your perspective is skewed.
What husband you pick, what wife you pick, what job you pick, it takes over your whole world view. So that's why even in trauma now, when you station, you need the help now, because we want to make sure that you first of all understand it was not your fault. But a lot of people take away because that's what I thought. So no one told me any different, like you just said. No one told you any different. So I had to go by what I thought. And then now I'm 20 years later thinking it's all my fault. I'm not any good.
Yeah.
I'm dirty. So we have to set it right
I
immediately
love
after
that.
the
You got to
break
set it right.
for it to heal right.
But something else you said that I thought was really powerful. You said the brain is a muscle just like the muscles below the neck.
Exactly.
And oftentimes we will go to the doctor
Mm-hmm.
for anything below the neck, whether it's our arm, whether it's our leg, our kidney,
Right.
our
Absolutely.
lungs, our heart, but anything above the neck,
Mm-hmm.
we think it ought to just be good on its
It'll
own.
be good.
And we are ashamed,
Yes.
like I was ashamed, that something's going on up here.
Right.
And so in looking at that, I know you do the talk therapy,
Mm-hmm.
and then I want to talk about EMDR.
Okay.
But people are so reluctant to take medication.
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
Okay. Right.
You know, I know there's been a stigma around mental health, but now,
Mhm.
you know, it's trending to have a therapist.
Right.
But there's still a stigma around taking medication. I have talked to people saying, you need some medicine.
Right.
I'm your pastor, and I'm telling you,
Right.
professional, talk about that.
Well, what I like to say is medication is, if you go back to the example I gave about the limbic brain, and so we have the left and the right hemisphere of our brain,
Uh-huh.
the frontal lobe and our limbic brain,
Uh-huh.
where our neurons goes back and forth like this here, right?
Uh-huh.
And so it keeps us balanced.
Right.
We don't feel too much. We don't overthink too much.
Yeah.
We keep it balanced.
Right.
What studies have shown, when there's a traumatic injury,
Uh-huh.
then it goes through our brain and it kind of slows those neurons
Yes,
up,
it
right?
does.
So therefore, a lot of people stay in their emotions too much, or
Yeah.
some people just say, I totally checked out from my emotions.
Absolutely.
So there's an imbalance. So what medication does, it goes in there and help those neurons fire that it can be a little balanced until, now this is the key,
Uh-huh.
until we're able to deal with the trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to say medication for me, now I
Uh-huh.
know it's going to be some difference, is almost like food stamps. It's
Uh-huh.
never meant to you to just stay on it. That's why medication plus therapy
That's
works.
it. That's
Medication
it. You
plus
said it like
therapy.
food stamps.
Yeah. Some people get on there and just stay. It was meant to be a transition,
But it's a good transition.
but a good transition.
And so I want to talk about that a minute. Go deeper into that, because I love the way you explained it. That once you have trauma, and
Mhm.
again, you all, trauma can be anything. Don't think
Absolutely.
when we say trauma, it's, you know, somebody was dismangled in a car accident.
Right.
Your divorce could be traumatic for you. The loss of a
Absolutely.
parent or a child is traumatic.
Loss of a job.
A loss of a job.
What we're
Yes.
experiencing now.
Absolutely. So when that happens, you said you either can go too far into your feelings, you just stay in your feelings.
Right.
You can't stop crying.
Absolutely.
You know, all those feelings.
Absolutely.
All right. Anger.
Anger.
Because some people don't even realize that anger is a response.
Mhm.
It's not sometimes legitimate that somebody really did something to you.
Absolutely.
You're just now out of control, and you could be over enraged.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
And so then you said, or we go to the other extreme,
Mhm.
where we just try to escape,
Right.
that we don't even deal with it. We sleep all
Totally
the time,
check
don't
out.
talk, check out. Okay. But medicine, I want you to, because
Okay.
I got a lot of people that won't take it. And the problem with it is they're drowning.
Mhm.
They're drowning. And I'm saying, you got to get a little help.
Yes.
Okay, so what does medicine do now? I know I got you repeating this.
Acts as them neurons, and it helps fire those neurons up. That way, because if you do your research and then you see a traumatic brain, it goes slower. The neurons go slower on a
Right.
traumatic brain.
Right.
So what the medicine does, it helps fire those neurons up so you can get out the bed. So you like.
So you can get
okay,
out of the bed.
So you get out the
To
bed.
go to your therapy appointment.
Yes, just to go to my therapy appointment. You know, I think I can do it. And that's what medication does. It helps that. So there's nothing negative about medication.
But
It's-
it's not supposed to take the place
It's not supposed to take the place of and
dealing with
that's
your
why
issues.
We still have to deal with the issue. That's the key point.
Right.
Because if you take the medication and don't deal with the trauma, then you're going to have to be on that medication for a long time because you still have the underlying trauma there. And that's what I'm trying to tackle is let's get to the root why you're on medication so that it allow us to then do the work, do
Right.
the work
Do
and
the
get to the
work.
trauma.
Yes. So y'all hear that? Take your little medicine. Take half of your medicine, right? And that way you can function to get out of bed.
Right.
You can stop crying long enough to
Right.
get to
There you go.
therapy and be focused in therapy
Absolutely.
to really do some work, some
Absolutely.
real work.
Real work.
Real work.
Real work.
I love it. I love it. All right. I got to ask you this before we go to another commercial break. What other forms of therapy, what other modalities do you use?
I use empty chair method, and that's one that I'm really using now. Is I just like to bring that child part of you to the room.
Yes.
See, a lot of time we don't understand ourselves because we forgot about the child part of us.
Y'all know what the empty chair is? Some of you,
Right.
y'all have sat in my office and had to go
So
talk
you
to the
used
empty
it
chair.
before? Oh yeah. We got to go, and it's basically you have a conversation with yourself. How you doing? Because we like to blame ourselves. And I think we blame and stay in blame and shame because we don't understand the struggle that Linda been through.
I'm telling
And
you.
sometimes you got to pull yourself and talk to yourself. Wait a minute, girl. Wait a minute, man.
Yeah.
You're looking at where you are now, but look how far you've come.
Absolutely.
And so we have to look at ourselves and have a conversation. They say we crazy anyway. So let's just talk to ourselves and say, remember, you overcome rape, you overcome divorce, you overcome so much. And yet you blaming yourself. Look back, and then they started to straighten their back up. Wait a minute.
Absolutely.
And it didn't come from my pastor. It didn't come from my motivational speaker. It came from me.
Absolutely.
So I like to put that chair. That's one that I'm really using now.
Okay.
I like to put that chair in front of you so you can hear from you. Girl, look how far you, man. If you don't get up and shake it, we done this before. We can do this again. And so many clients say, wow, that changed my life.
I'm using a lot of art therapy now, and that's been very good for those who are going through grief.
Okay.
And to being able, because oftentimes when you have a traumatic experience, there's so many feelings. Because when if you lose a loved one, you're not just losing that loved one, you're losing what they meant to you.
Absolutely.
You may be losing income. You may be losing other friends that were attached to that person. That was so. In the art therapy, they'll get a chance to identify through different variations of color, all of the different layers, and say, so yes.
And I like art therapy too. Art therapy also allows them to. A lot of people can't talk like you and me, so they can express.
They can express it in the
even
different
like
colors.
Drumming. I've done drumming before.
Wow.
And for people to beat the drums, and then you
that's
see,
a good one. I had used that one.
Yes, you see, they start thinking about their trauma, start thinking about their pain, and tears start falling. And I just sit there as a therapist, and then they say, "Wow,
I like that.
I got it out." So
I like that. Okay, y'all, I'm putting the drum in my office now. I love it. I love it. Look, we're gonna take a commercial break. This is good. Free therapy today. All right, we're gonna take our break and we'll be right back. Okay, welcome back to Conversations with Linda. I am having an informative, revelatory conversation with Mr. Charles Winton. He is a mental health therapist here in the local area. And let me tell you, he is giving free therapy today. Like I'm telling you, you are in for a healthy year mentally this year if you would just listen and get you a good therapist.
Right.
All right. I want to turn the page now and talk a little bit about men.
Okay.
Because now men are starting to acknowledge and admit that they have an emotional side as well. And it's a good thing,
Yes.
but they still seem to be reluctant to go to therapy.
Right. Right.
Talk to us about that.
Well, as I mentioned, working in the prison for 20 years, I've seen men of all different shades, different colors, from different backgrounds. But one thing I've learned, and I think to answer this question, I'm going to go back to a client I had, and he came in for marital issues.
Okay.
His wife, my wife sent me here. I love when men come.
Yeah,
My
that's
wife
what
sent
they
me
say.
here. I don't want to be here. My wife sent me here. Okay, well, let's do it then. So after a couple of sessions, he said this, and I think this will bring life to your question. He said, Charles, he was sitting there looking at me like this. He said, I'm in a marriage now that's requiring me to use my emotions. But when I was 9, I lost my dad.
Wow.
And he said, I remember going up to the casket. It was me and my mom, and I was crying. And he said, my uncle came up to me and said, suck it up.
Yeah.
You're the man of the house now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's get it
Yeah.
together. Suck it up. And right there, now my wife is saying, show me emotions. I need you. How do I do that, Charles? When I was taught, real man, if I'm going to step up, I don't have any emotion, and my emotions don't matter. So this is hard for me.
Wow.
Because it was already embedded and instilled in me. If you're going to be a real man, suck it up. And so we've got a generation of men that's sucking it up and don't know how to be there emotionally for their son, emotionally for their wife. But I don't want to beat you down because I know why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Because that's what Uncle JoJo said.
Right, right.
And so I did it.
Right.
Remember, if we don't set it right, it won't heal right.
Absolutely.
So now you are trying to figure out, why am I like this? It was never set right at 9 years old.
Right.
They said real men don't cry. They suck it up.
So how do they, because I've had those same clients as well. I had one guy, I'll never forget. He made such an impact on me. Very flat effect. Came into my office and he was maybe 22. So can you imagine at 22? He's saying to me, I only have one tear.
Wow.
One. He didn't say one cry. He said one tear. And he said, I've already used that one tear. Now what do I do?
Wow.
So he was saying, I got to go the rest of my life never shedding a tear again. At 22, you know how much can happen to you from 22 on?
Right.
So how do men find those emotions? Because you said, you know, we put things in a file cabinet. Where did they go? When Uncle JoJo said, suck it up.
Yes.
Where did that man put those emotions?
And that brings to life the file cabinet.
Okay.
Where did those clients, your client and my client that we just talked about, so where did the tear go?
Okay.
Because we do know it's real. The pain is real. The hurt is real. So just by you telling me to suck it up, that does not negate the pain.
Yeah.
So what you've taught me is that put the pain away in my file cabinet.
Okay.
Right? Well, then later, when you see bouts of anger, when you see bouts of rage, when you see suicide, when you see these triggers, then every one of those files that you told me to suck it up, it come pouring out. And where will you be when they pour out? I always ask people, if you don't deal with it now in this session, where will you be? Because the body will tell you it's gonna come out because you just asked the question, where did the hurt go? Where did the pain go? So you take 22 years, 30 years, 40 years of pain, it has to come out.
It has to come out.
The question is, and that's what we call, I heard a nervous breakdown, or she had a nervous breakdown because the file cabinet became overloaded and it said, I can't do it no more. I can't do it no more. So if your listeners are listening, and if that's you, then now is the time to say, you know what? I need to call and get help. I need to call Pastor Linda. I need to call somebody because I don't want it to
call
explode.
Charles Winton.
I don't want it to explode.
And so what I'm thinking when you say it has to come out, oftentimes we see it in men, it comes out in rage.
Yes, because that's the only one we know.
Oh,
That's the only one we know.
And we feel safe.
That we feel safe. Now check this out. In Voice of the Heart book, Chip Dodd, Voice of the Heart, he explains anger. And he says, anger is a lid that covers a multitude of emotions.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So if you lift that lid of anger up, there's some hurt there.
Mm-hmm.
There's some pain there.
Yeah.
There's some sadness there.
Uh-huh.
But only thing we can identify with is anger.
Right.
Well, I can't tell you that I'm hurt.
Yeah.
I can't tell my best friend, we boys, hey, man, you hurt me yesterday.
Right.
So what I do is
I can say
hey,
I'm
man,
mad.
you always do.
Yeah.
But what I'm really saying,
Right.
you hurt me yesterday.
Mm.
And having that opportunity through conversations like this to get the word out that, hey, even as your friend,
Mm-hmm.
be open and honest with me.
Yeah.
I challenge my friend like
Yeah.
that. Be open and honest with me. If I
Mhm.
hurt you, I hurt you.
Because it is more sociably acceptable
Yes.
to be angry
Angry.
than it is to be hurt.
Exactly.
We feel that when we say we're hurt, we're being too vulnerable.
Yes.
We're being too even feminine.
Mm-hmm.
That
Right.
guys feel like that's a feminine trait.
And what's the story? I like to say, what's the story behind that? If I say that, vulnerable
Mm-hmm.
or I'm weak. And I don't want to be, no, I ain't weak. And I
Yeah.
just got to show you I ain't weak,
Wow.
but you're hurting.
Mm.
And so it translates to all of our relationship. Our wives can't see that intimate part. Our sons and daughters can't see that intimate part. So what they think is dad is Superman.
Mm.
And so then that kind of tells them, well, I can't show feelings. I can't show emotion. And then now we've built a cycle
Right.
of men, boys that
Mhm.
can't show their true feelings.
And I got to ask you this because I'm sure, I have a lot of women who are my chit chatters.
Okay.
And so they're saying, I know in this moment, you are so right. You are so right. But we got to be careful of how we handle our men
Yes.
when they do open
Mhm.
up, when they
Right.
do share their emotions. Can you speak to that?
I was about to say that as well. Even educating women
Mhm.
on how to accept those emotions.
Mhm.
Because if you want him to be vulnerable, then you have to be at a place where you can nurture or validate those emotions.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, we have some, not all, women will invalidate. Suck it up.
Yeah.
Suck
absolutely.
it up. Even women are telling me, suck it up.
Uh-huh.
Well, now you just showed me that this is not a safe
It's
place.
not a safe.
So what I want relationships to do, I told you I'm marriage and family therapy, is to create a safe place that not only for men, but for the child and for the mom. That's starting at the head. That
Absolutely.
whether it's right or wrong, we're not asking if it's right or wrong.
Uh-huh.
It may not be right. The
Yeah.
feelings may not be
Yeah,
valid, but
absolutely.
their feeling is valid. It might be the wrong, but it's their true feeling.
Absolutely.
So what you're trying to do in this environment is create a safe place that
Mhm.
I can come
Mhm.
and lay my head on your
Absolutely.
breast.
The Bible says perfect love casts out all fear.
Yes.
And I use that a lot with couples because it's in that loving environment that I don't have to be afraid
Yes.
to open up and
Right.
be vulnerable. But if I don't feel that this is a safe place, that I'm loved in this, then I'm going to lock it all down and not share.
There you go. And
And
so
so-
then you got men that are checked out.
Just check
But
that
if
out.
if your chit chatters are women, I want to talk to the women on this part. Create a safe place for him. And it's not the time right now to say whether it's right or wrong. What you want to do in their relationship is build a safe place that even if it's wrong, he can come and share his thoughts with it.
Don't
So,
judge it, ladies.
Don't judge it.
That's what you're saying.
Right.
Don't judge it. And don't try to fix it.
Don't try and fix it.
Don't fix it. And I can say that to the men, that oftentimes women, while we don't check out, what we do is we tell our girlfriends. We don't share with the men in our lives. And the reason is because men try to fix us.
Right.
And we're just saying, but I just want you to listen.
Right.
I often know the answer.
Absolutely,
Don't
right.
want to, but just listen.
Just listen.
But because men want to fix
Fix
it
it.
all up and get it over with and done with.
Remember, that's what they said, going back to the frontal, men, I think from their frontal brain, we're a logical thinker, reasonable thinker. We just want to let's logically, baby, let's see how we can
Yeah.
get on. I don't want you to logic. Can you step into your limbic brain for a minute? Just
Ooh.
sit with me. Just sit with me. And
Y'all, I know y'all are learning something today. You know, I pray for my frontal lobe because I am a frontal lobe person.
You're frontal lobe
I'm a
person.
frontal lobe person. So I pray for I lay hands on my frontal lobe so that it can be functioning right. But also I pray because I do need to switch brains. All right. So I don't stay up here. So I want y'all to start thinking about that. And do I stay up here in my frontal lobe? Am I a limbic person? You know, when we talk about left brain, right brain, we're really learning something now. I'm so thankful that we are finally giving some attention to the brain.
Right.
Because we have not. Neck down, we'll take care of that. But neck up, we don't do anything. Okay, so much to talk about. You know, we've talked about trauma in this climate that we're living in of COVID and its aftermath. I want to ask this quickly, and then I'm going to go to the next question. Do you think now we're going to see something that we're going to label COVID PTSD?
I'm sure. Yeah, absolutely. Because even after the pandemic, I want to make sure we understand that even after the pandemic, say it's over with, there are lasting effects that this pandemic in these past 2 years has caused that we have yet to see. Yeah. So I want to educate as well on that. Just because it's over, thank God it'll be over soon. I'm believing that. But we still have the lasting effect, like you said, the PTSD afterwards. Absolutely. So we still the fight then begins.
It's like when guys went to Vietnam and they came home, trying to figure out, you know, and feel safe in an uncertain world. Right. It's so y'all
just trying to get back to whatever sense of normalcy and trying to readjust again. So that's difficult. Like you said, when servicemen come home, they have to readjust. So this is that's going to be the adjustment period. So it's going to be open, and we need to make sure we are aware of that and educated on it.
So what can we do for self-care? Because we're praying and believing God that COVID is going to be over, but it's not yet. Right. And not just COVID. I mean, so much other stuff that's going on that, and I think that even social media has made us, you know, used to, I only knew what was going on in my house, my neighborhood, my city, my state. Now I know what's going on over your house and in, you know, the next state and 5 other states. So we've got so much now that's coming at us. What can we do for self-care?
I want to say something right quick, and then I answer that. You mentioned how social media keeps us in touch, but also it lets us see everything. Yeah. And so we also need to be aware of this trauma as well, the trauma that we see, because it may not have happened to you, but when you look at the devastating hurricanes, when you see, I remember one that I had to fight when we first got in trauma. I don't know if a lot of people remember during COVID, and you seen all those body bags and everything. Yes. Those images can be traumatic. Yes. So I want to inform your viewers as well. That's trauma as well. When you see pictures, magazines, read stories, hear those stories on I lost my mom and everything, those can have an effect on you.
And you're scrolling down and you see funeral after funeral, because now we're streaming funerals.
Absolutely. So, wow. So one of the things,
you go to a funeral and you didn't even mean to go.
This not how I ended up. I was scrolling yesterday and I was like, is that somebody's body? I'm like, how did that get on Facebook? It's open now. You know, you used to didn't take pictures, but now it's live. So, but one of the things I like to do is limit social media, of course. Okay. I wouldn't say get totally away from social media because we're in the isolation. Sure. But you do want balance because you want that connectivity, but you do want to limit it. Okay. Exercise is number one. Right. Getting that exercise.
Because that does something for the brain.
That does something for the brain. Okay. Getting sleep, getting rest. I make sure I get plenty of rest, drinking plenty of water. Yeah. These are small things, and doing something with your family, even if it's going for a walk and keeping that social activity, interaction is some of the best forms of that I can give for you.
All right. Y'all hear that?
And eat right.
And eat right. Eat right. Because so listen now. Y'all, we exercise to lose weight, but even if you're not exercising to lose weight, you need to exercise to pump some of that oxygen to the brain, right? And eating right, all of that, because we just, you know, we load up. I do, because I stress eat. We load up on sugar.
Oh my goodness.
And
Man, you were just like I see.
So I had M&Ms for breakfast this morning. What did you
What?
have?
Peanut M&Ms? Well, I tell you what, I made a cake last night and I had 3 slices for breakfast with a cup of milk. So I think me and you in the same boat.
So that's not good for you
It's not.
because it takes you up, but it drops you.
Exactly.
And let me tell you, so let's add this one, alcohol.
Yeah.
Because you remember when we started going through COVID, alcohol sales skyrocketed.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
The only place that wasn't closing was the liquor store.
Liquor store.
Right? Because people were trying to
And do you remember, I think when we were doing the shutdown, they even allowed the liquor store to be open.
Absolutely.
Because they said that was a form of people need that.
Absolutely. We closed the church and opened the liquor store.
But they opened the liquor store.
But what people don't realize is that alcohol is a depressant.
Yes.
That yes, it'll mellow you out for a minute or lift you, but then it's gonna drop you.
Absolutely.
And people don't know
that. And at
that.
the end of the day, you still have that same feeling there.
Yes.
So keep that in mind.
Absolutely.
You got to deal with that emotion.
This is so good. So I want y'all to practice all of those things. I'm going to try to come off some of this sugar. Not today.
Not today.
Because telling your truth is another form of therapy.
Absolutely.
So, okay, we're wrapping up, but I got a couple of more questions because I really want to now help people find a good therapist. And, your phone is going to be ringing, right?
Okay.
But everybody is mental health conscious these days. But not everybody is trained.
Absolutely.
Right? And so what advice can you give someone so that they're not receiving the wrong information?
Absolutely. One of the main things, and this may seem minute, but it's important. Are they licensed?
Mm-hmm.
Are they licensed? Please make sure they're licensed therapists. And we're so, like you said, everybody's into therapy now, that I've talked to some people and they said, I hadn't even checked with their license. And then I come back and said, they weren't licensed. I just assumed. So don't assume. You want to make sure they're licensed, they trained, they're certified. So make sure that above all that they're licensed, trained, and certified.
Right.
And you should be asking about, I want to see your license. I want to know, how long have you been doing therapy? Ask questions like, what are your specialties? Ask background. It's not just the therapist wanting to know you, but you get to know
you. Get to know your therapist.
So don't be afraid. One of the things I think, Pastor Linda, is that we think that a therapist is the end all be all, but you get to ask us questions.
Absolutely.
My first session, tell me something you want to know about me. So ask those questions and see what their specialties are and that they're licensed. And I think and recommendations as well.
Recommendations. And if you go to one therapist and you don't hit it off with that therapist, don't give up on therapy. Go to another one. It's like you go to another doctor.
Absolutely. Don't let, because you didn't connect with that therapist, say that therapy doesn't work.
Right.
It's a connection. It's a relationship.
It really is.
So if you didn't connect with that one, go to another one and say, wow, I found that connection. That's why I personally like to talk to. If you email me, leave me a voicemail, I want to call you first. How you doing? And then a lot of people say, wow, I connected with him on the first day because I want to talk to you. Wow. I know we're doing a lot of online, but I'm young, but I'm old school. I want to call you. I don't want to just you book online. I want to say, hey, you're interested. Tell me a little more. Wow, I wasn't thinking that you were going to call me. Yeah, I want to talk to you. So just because you didn't get it on that first one doesn't mean therapy is not. That might not be the connection for you, but find another therapist that you connect with.
And so how do you go? You mentioned recommendations. How do you go about finding a therapist?
Well, we do have Psychology Today. And you can look up Psychology Today, and then you can put in your zip code, and it'll tell you all the therapists that's in your area. And I get a lot of calls from people who say, do you know about Miss Linda? Do you know about this person? Do you know about this person? And ask people online, on social media, recommend a good therapist, and you can see. So there's a lot of ways you can get some good recommendations. But Psychology Today is the #1 platform for many therapists.
My last question: should males go to males and females go to females? Because people ask me that. Well, should I go to a male or a female?
And I think it's again that connection. What are you comfortable with? And I don't want to put limitations on it because then that'll put another limit on it. So the most important thing in finding a good therapist is, are you making a connection?
That's good. That's good. Whew. Free therapy today. Free therapy. Listen, I hope you have been helped today. And I hope now you have another perspective on mental health and mental health issues, and even are motivated to get you a good therapist. Even if you're not in a traumatic situation,
Right.
you want to have, I think, just like you need a good attorney on retainer, I think you need to have a good therapist on retainer. Just like you have a yearly checkup with your doctor,
Absolutely.
hopefully you do. I think you ought to have a yearly checkup
Absolutely.
with a good mental health therapist. I'm out of time. I'm never out of conversation, but I'm always out of time. But tune in every Sunday evening here at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, because we've just got more enlightening, enjoyable conversations to have to come. All right, guys, you all have a wonderful week, and I'll see you soon. God bless you.